The farm sat at the edge of the Llano Verde like a forgotten prayer, half buried in dust, split rail fences leaning as if tired of standing, and a farmhouse whose windows stared back at the world with a wary, hollow look. Folks in Red Willow said it had been abandoned since the winter of '79, when the owner rode out to buy seed and never came back. Others whispered darker tales, voices in the wind, lanterns moving at night, but most agreed on one thing: no sensible man stayed there long. Ethan Cole was not, by local measure, sensible. He arrived one late afternoon in the spring of 1886, riding a mule with more backbone than beauty and dragging a wagon that had seen better days. The sun slanted low, turning the prairie gold, and Ethan took it as a good sign. He was a widower, thin as a fence post, with eyes that had learned to look past trouble rather than stare it down. He had come west for quiet, for land he could call his own, and for a chance to begin again where memories didn't crowd the doorway. The deed had been cheap. The land was rough but promising. And when he reined in before the farmhouse, dust settling around him like a held breath, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. He tethered the mule and climbed down, boots crunching on gravel. The place was worse up close. Roof sagging, porch boards warped, a barn that leaned like it might sigh and fall over if spoken to sharply. Still, he smiled. Work didn't frighten him. Loneliness did. Ethan pushed the front door open. It creaked, protesting the intrusion, and a shaft of light cut across the parlor. The air smelled of old wood and sage. He stepped inside, hat in hand, already planning where he'd patch the roof first, when he heard a voice. "Don't move." It was calm, steady, and unmistakably female. Ethan froze. Slowly, he raised his hands. "Didn't aim to cause trouble," he said. "This here farm's mine by deed." Another voice joined the first, sharper, younger. "That's what the last man said." A third voice followed, low and amused. "And the one before him." 3 women stepped into view. They were nothing like the ghosts or wild-eyed squatters Ethan had half expected. They stood with the easy confidence of people who knew the land and each other. One held a rifle. Not aimed directly at him, but close enough to make the point. She was tall, with dark hair braided down her back and eyes the color of storm clouds. The second was shorter, freckles dusting her cheeks, a revolver tucked into her belt. The third leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, smile crooked, auburn hair catching the light. For a long moment, none of them spoke. "Well," Ethan said at last, lowering his hands a fraction. "This is awkward." The tall woman's lips twitched despite herself. "Name's Clara Bennett," she said. "This is Maeve," she nodded to the freckled one, "and Lila." The smiling woman tipped an imaginary hat. "I'm Ethan Cole," he replied. "And unless I've been swindled, this farm belongs to me." Maeve snorted. "Belongs is a strong word." Clara studied him carefully. "You alone?" "Yes, ma'am." "No family following?" "No." Clara lowered the rifle. "Then we best talk." They sat at a scarred table in the kitchen, dust motes floating like tiny stars in the fading light. Clara explained first. The women had arrived 2 years earlier, each with reasons to keep moving and reasons to stop. Clara had lost her husband to a range war gone bad. Maeve had run from a town that wanted to marry her off to a man twice her age. Lila's past was a locked box she smiled around and never opened. They'd found the farm empty, workable, and far enough from town to be left alone. They fixed what they could, planted a garden, trapped game, and learned the rhythms of the land. When men came, claim jumpers, drifters, worse, they made sure those men didn't stay. Ethan listened, fingers laced, nodding slowly. When they finished, he cleared his throat. "I won't lie," he said. "I need this place. But I won't run roughshod over folks who've been keeping it alive." He paused. We could share. At least until we figure a fair arrangement. Maeve raised a brow. You trust us? Lila smiled wider. Better question, do we trust you? Ethan met her gaze. I reckon that's for time to decide. The next weeks passed in a careful dance of boundaries and small kindnesses. Ethan took the barn, patching the roof and fixing the corral. The women kept the house. Meals were shared, stories traded by lantern light. Trust grew like grass after rain, slow, green, stubborn. Trouble came riding in on a hot afternoon, announced by the jangle of spurs and the sneer of men who believed the world owed them something. 3 riders from Red Willow dismounted at the fence, eyes roaming the land with greedy intent. Their leader, a thick-necked man named Harlan Pike, spat in the dirt. Place like this, he said loudly, ought to have a proper owner. Ethan stepped forward, calm as still water. It does. Pike laughed. Heard tell this farm's haunted by women with guns. His gaze slid to Clara. Guess the stories were true. Maeve's hand hovered near her revolver. Lila's smile vanished. The standoff stretched thin, heat pressing down like a hand. Pike's men shifted, fingers itching. Ethan felt the old fear stir, but he stood his ground. This land's worked honest, Ethan said. You ride on. Pike's eyes hardened. Or what? Clara lifted her rifle, steady and sure. Or you learn how true those stories are. For a heartbeat, it could have gone either way. Then a shot rang out, not from the farm, but from the ridge beyond. Dust kicked up near Pike's boots. A warning. From the rise, silhouettes appeared, neighbors Ethan had helped in small ways these past weeks, men and women who understood that peace was something you defended together. Pike cursed. This ain't over, he said, climbing back into his saddle. When they rode off, the farm exhaled. That night, beneath a sky heavy with stars, the 4 of them sat on the porch. No one spoke for a while. Then Lila laughed softly. Well, she said, seems you fit in after all. Ethan smiled, the lines around his eyes easing. Seems so. Summer deepened. Crops took hold. The farm changed, not just in boards mended and fields cleared, but in spirit. Where there had been wariness, there was laughter. Where there had been silence, there were songs. Each of them found something they hadn't known they were missing. Clara found steadiness, a future not defined by loss. Maeve found choice, real choice. Lila found a place where her past didn't have to follow her into every room. And Ethan found family, unexpected and fierce, forged not by blood but by shared mornings and hard-earned trust. When autumn came, with its sharp air and crimson sunsets, Ethan stood at the fence and looked back at the farmhouse, alive now with light and voices. He had moved into an abandoned farm seeking solitude. What he found instead was something far rarer on the frontier. A home. And as the wind moved through the grass like a promise kept, Ethan knew he would never ride on.